Change. The word alone can be challenging. How do we get started? Where will the change lead? Don't sit there and worry about it. Be the change. Welcome to Be the Change Radio. Host Christina Bloom has been a professional psychic and spiritual advisor for 20 years, offering psychic and mediumship readings for individuals and groups. She also teaches several classes in psychic development and metaphysics. In addition, she is an author who has published 2 books so far and is the co-owner of Moonbow Publications and Productions, LLC. Are you ready for that change now? Here is your host of Be the Change Radio, Christina Bloom.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Be the Change Radio. You're listening to us on WLTK-DB.com. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's Talk Radio. I love it. This is so much fun. All right, so I have a few announcements before we get started. I will be teaching an online class for the first time in a while, December 1st, which is next Thursday. It's a week from Thursday. I will be teaching past life class because there's been a lot of interest in that. A lot of people said that they wanted to take that class. So that is at 7:30 Central Time on Zoom. And you can get all of the registration details and everything on my meetup page at meetup.com/one spirit connection. That's ONE Spirit Connection. And then scroll down to events, click on the event, and then just go into the description, and all of the instructions are there. December 10th, I will be at the Soul and Synergy Metaphysical Fair at the Rice Lakes Elks Club in Rice Lake, Wisconsin. That's going to be I think it's the first time we're actually doing one in Rice Lake, if I remember correctly, but I'm looking forward to that because, you know, some of my favorite people are going to be there. And also, I just wanted to let everyone know that WLTK-DB, the radio station, will be closed from December 19th through the 25th. So there will be no Monday night shows on December 19th. So no Be the Change and no the Paranormal Room. So on the 19th of December, we won't be on the air. Just wanted to let you know that. And speaking of the Paranormal Room, we are going to be talking about investigations at penitentiaries and jails. And we'll be talking to Susan from the Adirondack Park Paranormal Society. She has some stories to tell us about a jailhouse that the group recently did an investigation at. So that'll be fun and exciting to hear about that. And also, as always, with the Paranormal Room, if you have a story to share, put it in the comment section, in the chat section, and we can send you a link to tell your story on the air if you're interested in doing that, because it's fun and we like doing that. So let's get started here. We're going to be talking about, hi, Robin. Thanks for popping on. I appreciate it. I know you come out like almost every week, and I so much appreciate that. Thank you. We're going to be talking about Anthony Sabalos, Wraith World Podcast. Very cool. Okay, cool. I don't know if I pronounced the last name right, and if I didn't, I'm sorry. We're going to be talking about near-death experiences and the Warren Foundation, and possibly like some extraterrestrial stuff too. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up. We're going to be talking to Nate Banker, who's involved in the Warren Foundation and has a lot of fun stuff to share with that. So near-death experiences, I know it's a lot of people are talking about that again lately, and it seems like it's a topic that comes and goes, but it's something that I think a lot of people are interested in, like what actually does happen to us when we leave our bodies. Where do we go? What do we do? What is it like to have a near-death experience? What is it like to be with someone when they have a near-death experience? So we got some interesting stuff coming up tonight, and I'm going to bring Nate out right away because he is just a wealth of information, and I just can't wait to hear everything he has to say. Hi, Nate. Welcome.
Hey, everybody. Hey.
All right. So tell us, first of all, what is your position in the Warren Foundation?
Currently, I am the assistant regional director for the Northeastern USA. So basically, Maine on down to like the Midwest, and I think we end, or my region ends at, I want to say Virginia. I'm
Okay.
not sure. I'm not exactly sure where the lines are. I'm still figuring
Okay.
it out myself. But yeah, so. And recently we created a division for ETs and trans-dimensional activity within, hauntings. So that's sort of new. There hasn't, we're still developing that. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
All right. Tell us about the transdimensional. Explain that for someone for maybe some people who are listening who don't know what that is.
Okay. It's sort of weird because I feel like trans-dimensional sort of crosses over into a few different fields,
Yeah,
such
that's
as
what I
like
was thinking.
the paranormal, cryptozoology, such as like I don't know if anyone's heard of like the Dover Demon or the Flatwoods Monster. Um, they feel like these, or even actually sometimes Bigfoot sightings.
Hmm.
It'll do weird things. Like I remember hearing one story where like Bigfoot, there was a campfire with people around it, and they heard noises, and all of a sudden, what they classify as Bigfoot came running at them, completely disappeared, and they heard like the heavy footfall still going past them. So, the community that believes Bigfoot is an alien, also a lot of them believe he's sort of trans-dimensional, and that's why you never find any bodies. He's sort of there and then he's not. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess it's a little bit hard to sort of classify since it's kind of a new field. I sort of got into it um, before I joined the foundation on my own, doing some residential cases where the activity didn't really match, spiritual activity or what I would classify as demonic activity. So, I'd get weird things in recordings like clicking and all sorts of other weird stuff.
Okay.
And I sort of started to think about, you know, what I had heard in like abduction cases and other people that had sort of alien activity around their house, like um, shadow figures, stuff like that. Though that seems to be a pretty common occurrence with
Yeah.
people that are, experiencing sort of ET activity. Um, so it got me, super interested in that field. And the more research I did, it seems like more cases that I had, leaned towards that, ET activity rather than demonic
Okay.
activity, things like that.
Okay, great. Jessica, thank you for being here. Welcome. We were just talking about transdimensional beings, and the Warren Foundation is just now opening a section for that, or I don't know if section's the right word, but that's one that popped into my head, so that's what we're using. A division, maybe?
Division.
Division.
Yeah.
Okay, so a division for transdimensional beings, and that's basically beings that can move from one dimension to another, but not necessarily like a demon or a ghost or something like that. It's more like the Bigfoot, like you were saying, um,
Well, I
that
mean,
people have described.
technically, I guess you could say some spirits are transdimensional.
That's
You know what
true.
I mean?
Yeah.
Since we don't completely understand the science behind it, um, you know, demons, spirits, they could be.
They could be.
It's
Yeah.
a relatively new field, so I guess, we'll wait and see when the
Yeah.
science catches up.
Yeah. When the science catches up, that's always the interesting thing, isn't it? Yeah. Um, so I was really, I know that when we get on chat, we just don't stop. Like we'll just chat for an hour or two
Yeah.
without stopping. And I also wanted to tell you, I really enjoyed getting to know you and Sophie at the Dark Waters Paracon. That was really nice getting to know both of you, and just
Oh,
watching you just like pull magic out of thin air with all the tech stuff was pretty amazing too. And I know you do a lot more than tech stuff, but that's what I saw you doing there. And I just wanted to say thank you, because you helped the rest of us out a lot, and I really
oh,
appreciate
you're
that.
welcome. We loved having you. It was a good weekend.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. um, Hi Nate, born and raised in Kingston. That's from Mary Phipps.
Oh, hey Mary.
Yeah, let's talk about. I know I wanted to cover the transdimensional thing because it's kind of a broad topic and it's not really well defined. But we had also talked about near-death experiences, kind of
Yes.
at length. And so you've been researching that, and
Yeah.
what has come up with you in your research? Like, what have you discovered?
Well, it's kind of cool because the more I research it, the longer I've realized, like, it seems like every case I come across, somebody has been, well, clinically dead longer each time. When I
Hmm.
first started researching it, it was like, okay, half an hour, that's crazy. Okay, then you go on, it's like, well, this person's been dead 3 hours, and then they're brought back to life. But actually, I looked it up, and the longest somebody had been dead and then successfully resuscitated with no, and then recovered completely was 17 hours.
Oh my
Which,
gosh!
yeah, it's kind of crazy. Um, and there's just, I mean,
Wow!
the whole like transdimensional thing, I kind of feel almost goes into the near death experience. I mean,
Yeah,
how many of you had? Four?
4. Yeah.
4? I mean, I'd definitely like to get into those more, but it's like, where does our conscious go? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When that happens, obviously we're on a different plane. So, you know, I don't know. I've heard with like UFO terminology and stuff, like our body of light, where
Mhm.
people have remote viewed like with their body of light and actually bumped into UFOs on their way up. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's kind
I
of a
have
crazy
not had that
concept.
experience,
Yeah.
just to be clear. I have not. Sounds kinda cool, though.
Yeah. So I mean, we don't know. It's,
Yeah.
with near death experiences, just I've heard so many different things from, flying through mountains to completely nothing where it's just black. So
Yeah.
it's, I don't know. I feel like there's everything and anything can happen.
Right. And I agree with you, because like I said, I've had 4, and every single one, the experience was different on the other side. It was never the same experience twice.
And you said that every single one of your NDEs, near death experiences,
Mhm.
were at different stages in life, right?
Right, right. Once as a small child, once as a teenager, once in my 20s and once in my 40s. So it was definitely different times of life, and different experience every time, different circumstances every time.
Do you think your experience sort of related directly to what you saw on the, other side,
Hmm.
like what you had experienced in life up to that point? You know what I mean? Almost like dreaming, sort of, if you, go to sleep
Yeah.
with the TV on, you sort of like your environment has a lot to do with what you dream about.
Robin, just for the record, I'm not planning on having any more, but thank you. She said, please don't have any more, Christina.
Yeah, we hope
Um,
not, right?
yeah, we certainly hope not, because getting there is generally not a pleasant experience. Um, I have to say, though, I don't really know how to answer that question. Um, with the first one, I'm going to sound very limited here because I was young. I would think I was around 5 years old, and So when I left my body, I walked down into a field and I saw somebody sitting on a rock, like a boulder. I mean, at 5 I would have called it a big rock, but a boulder,
Right.
and just walked across the field. And then this man helped me climb up onto the rock and sit next to him. And I just knew it was Christ. I don't know how I knew, because he did not look anything like the guy in the picture at the church, but I just knew that it was Christ, because he looked a whole lot more like Bob Marley than he did like the guy in the church. And I didn't even know who Bob Marley was at that point in my life. But looking
Right.
back,
Yeah.
I can use that reference. I honestly don't even know. I lived in a very small Wisconsin farm town. There weren't any Black people there. There weren't even really any dark people there of any kind. So I don't know where I would have gotten that reference. Maybe TV. I don't know. I don't know. The second one, I just didn't want to come back. I refused. I just stood there banging on the door in a coma while I was in a coma for 4 days, just arguing with a voice on the other side, because I did not want to come back then.
So what forced you to come back?
I was told it wasn't my time and I had to come back.
And
I had things to do.
you were just like pulled back?
Yeah, eventually I was just pulled back. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but I was in a coma for 4 days while I was having that argument with somebody on the other side of a door. Now, from my perception, it didn't feel that long.
I was actually just talking to somebody about, because I mentioned the show and near death experiences, and it's kind of crazy, how many people I've talked to once I mentioned the show, they're like, "Oh, I have a near death experience," and so I've heard quite a few of
Yeah.
them, but I mentioned like coma experiences, and coma,
Mhm.
like sort of that, it's almost like near death experiences. Everybody that I've heard of, through my research of coma, being in a coma, they have no idea how long they had been in a coma.
Right.
Some people, thought it was, a few minutes to a few days. Some people that were only out hours thought they lived years, you know what I mean, on this other plane of existence.
Mhm.
And it's a very similar concept, I feel, to
Yeah.
a near death experience, where time becomes this irrelevant thing once you cross over.
Right. Right. I was told it was 4 days. I mean, I'm going based on what other people have told me. So I really don't even, I mean, I can't even verify it, but it didn't feel that long to me. It felt like maybe 20 minutes to me.
Wow,
So,
that's interesting.
yeah, yeah, it didn't feel long to me at all. The third one, it was while I was in labor having my first child. And at that point, I couldn't leave. I left my body, but I never left the room, because no, I have a baby to take care of. I can't do that. I have to stay here now. So, it was just I really fought to get back into my body in that one. But again, no sense of time. It felt like it went really fast.
Yeah.
But I was told that they restarted my heart twice during that process.
Oh,
So
wow.
I have no real concept of how long it actually was taking. I don't have any idea about that at all.
Yeah, I mean, because that can take up like hours, right?
I
The
d
whole
I have
like
no idea.
I've never
Yeah,
real like been, present while a baby's being born, so I
right.
don't know, but I know it can take a while sometimes. So
Oh, the whole process
yeah.
from the time it was 43 hours.
Oh, wow.
From the time I went into labor to the time they did the C-section was 43 hours.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah. So, I mean, that was a long time, but I don't know how long I was out of body.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have no concept of that. So, and the last one, I was like, okay, I've done a lot of cool stuff. I'm ready to go. And I was already all the way on the other side. I don't know how long I was there. I don't feel like it was a really long time, because I feel like I was pulled back pretty quickly. I heard my husband's voice and I just kind of went towards his voice and found myself back in my body. So
And what did you see?
it, it was all just It was more of a feeling. I mean, everything was bright white, and it was just the most amazing, like, love and peace that I don't even have words for. It
And
was
you
just
you would consider that like all the way on the other side?
right, because I no longer saw the door I walked through.
Oh, okay. Because
Yeah.
like in a lot of stories I've heard, it's sort of like the white room, the
Mhm.
typical white room is where a lot of people are brought to sort of make the decision whether they want to
Oh,
move on or
maybe it was
not.
that. Maybe it was that.
Some people see a door, some people literally see like almost like a desk for like a waiting room with a person not at there that
Yeah.
talks to them. Um, there
I
was
didn't
a
see that. That would have been interesting.
there was a woman who drowned, and that's where she was brought to. And
Okay.
once she decided to go back, she then all of a sudden felt pain and and then it turned into like a black room, and something told her to go back because her husband was going to sacrifice himself because they were both just sort of floating in this lake.
Oh, wow.
And when she came back, then all of a sudden a boat came out of nowhere. This couple that I forget exactly what happened, they got like lost on the lake, so it was just a coincidence they happened to be there. And the husband actually experienced like, I think he saw like shadows underwater. Then he had like paranormal experiences on the
Wow. I've
outside
got
while, yeah,
goosebumps.
while she was going through this. And yeah, he was ready to like basically sacrifice himself because they were doing something that he liked to do, the scuba diving thing,
Mhm.
and something like malfunctioned with her equipment and she was stuck underwater and drowned. But um yeah, she saw the white room and that like some woman was basically at like a desk, she said, and sort of talking to her. Or she
Wow.
said it was more of a telepathic, speaking. So I don't know. That's I've
Yeah.
It was stories like that that's where I start to think about the transdimensional ET connection with, telepathy, things like that.
That could
Um,
be, yeah.
you know what I mean?
Wow.
We don't know really where we came from exactly. And, with a lot of, abduction, ET experiencers, it's a lot of telepathic communication, things like that. And a lot of the
Yeah.
same sort of things are said, like basically like be calm, I mean, things like that. So the more I look into it, the more sort of connections there are, and maybe I'm just out there, but I don't
I
know.
think we're all kind of out there, and that's
Yeah.
okay because out there might be where the answers are,
I feel
you
like you
know?
have to be in this field. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Keith wants to know, who sends you back when one decides to do so?
Hmm. um I don't know, a lot of times in stories I've heard, it's like a stranger will tell them to go back, or just a voice. People, you know, a lot of times will just assume it's God, or depending on their religion, a voice comes out of nowhere, tells them to go back, or makes them choose. So it's kind of like they have a physical being there asking them what they want to do, but then
Yeah.
there's all like a voice telling them what's going on outside of their body. It's sort of different with every case, I
It
feel.
really is. Yeah. I mean, like for me, 4 different ones, 4 different experiences, and there's at least one where I could not identify who was telling me it wasn't my time yet. I didn't know. It was just a voice on the other side of the door. So,
Like you like looking back on it, you don't recognize the voice at all.
I couldn't even tell you if it was male or female.
Oh wow. Hmm.
Yeah, it was just a voice. And, it's the same voice I hear though, like, when you're going to sleep or waking up and you hear your name and it's have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, actually the one experience I had where I don't know if I would consider it near death experience or not. I got into a bad car accident in my brother's truck, and it rolled over like 6 times going like 70 miles an hour.
Wow.
And his cab was full of like power tools and crowbars, things like that. And the last memory I had, sort of in those situations, time slows down. So I remember the truck warping around me and the windows exploding out. And then I got hit in the face by something really hard. And this calmness came over me, even though my last thought was, if I'm alive, I'm going to be horribly disfigured because my face was just smashed in. It was like a sense of calmness, and it was just black. And then I don't know how long I was out for, but a voice just said, "Wake up," almost like I was sleeping. And when I woke up, my brother was still unconscious. So I don't know where it came from, but
Okay.
it was like a dream.
Yeah. I wonder if how many people have something like that and don't know if they've had a near death experience.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a weird situation because my brother passed away like 3 days later from
Okay.
an unrelated experience. Um, and I've always had this like weird feeling that on the other side there was almost like a deal made between my brother and some other entity, something like that, where he traded himself so that I could live, you know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
because we got to spend like 3 more days together, and then he had this unfortunate accident where he passed away. So, but I don't know, it's just never settled right, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I would be struggling with that too in that situation. That would be interesting to have to deal with. Yeah. Wow. That is an extraordinary story. Wow. Keith asks if it's a guide.
Yeah, I just saw that.
You know what? We don't know. I mean, like, we can say it feels like a guide or it feels like God or whatever, but I don't think anyone actually knows unless they recognize like a family member or something who said, you need to go back. It's not your time.
But even if you recognize the voice, who's to say that something's not just mimicking that voice to make you feel
Right.
comfortable? And I mean, it could have a lot to do with your faith, your religion, what
It
you
could.
believe.
Yeah. It could have that too. I don't know. The most memorable thing about the voice is it was unmemorable. Like it wasn't anyone I knew. I couldn't identify gender to it. It was just a voice, and I don't know how else to explain that. So, yeah, that's other
That,
than, when Jesus told me it was time to go back when I was 5.
I mean, that's super interesting though,
Yeah.
because, now we're starting to see that, like geography wise, Jesus probably was a lot darker, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And so it's kind of interesting that you would see him like that.
right. Especially since I didn't really have any exposure to people who would look like that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And
Like,
and at
yeah.
5, like, I don't know, I grew up sort of, uh, like, I'm confirmed Catholic, so I grew up going to church every Sunday and stuff, and I know at 5, I didn't really have a great grasp of what religion was or
Right.
God, you know what I mean? Anything like that, so
Right, you just go where your parents take you at that age.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My aunt told me to stare at the statues on each side because she said if I stared at them long enough, they would start to move. And that was her way of keeping me quiet, I guess.
Let's see, I've woken up to someone this is Mary Phipps. I've woken up to someone calling my name. Also, I hear knocking sometimes that wakes me. Boy, that's a broad spectrum, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that like waking up as in just sleeping and then waking up.
I think so, that's what it sounds like to me. Yeah.
I mean, that could be paranormal or, I mean, I've been woken up by someone saying my name a few times. I've actually felt like I've been hit in my sleep, like someone actually like hit my arm, and I don't consider my apartment haunted. I do live in like historic Plattsburgh, so like
Right.
like across the street there's a house with a cannonball still stuck in the wall from the Battle of Plattsburgh and stuff like that.
Wow.
So where I live is pretty old. It's like kitty corner to my apartment, there's a sign that says like the first house in Plattsburgh was built here and stuff like that. So it's pretty old neighborhood, and I feel like there has been some sort of activity in my apartment, but it comes and goes. And I've heard people saying my name and stuff like that, but I don't know. I feel like that could be paranormal, or it's hard to say if it's a, constant sort of, haunting, or it could just be your subconscious.
Yeah, that could just be subconscious. I hadn't even thought of that, but you're right. It could be. Um, yeah, Keith wants to know, what does the name calling mean? And again, everything that we would say would be theory, right? It would be just whatever we've
Yeah.
heard or however it feels to us. So I don't know that we can really quantify what that means exactly. Sometimes I hear knocking too, but I live in a complex that has hundreds of units in it. So, I mean, depending on how air ducts work and all that, I mean, that could be somebody, 3 units down pounding a nail in the wall. Who knows?
Yeah, there
Yeah.
are a lot of natural sort of explanations
Right.
for knocking. I've heard, walls and windows do crazy things when it's windy, and
Or
pipes and ceilings. Like my
es-
apartment cracks and it does all sorts of weird stuff.
especially in the older buildings,
Yeah, for
where
sure.
there's been settling and all of that. Um, there's a lot of theories, Keith. So there's not like one theory as to what the name calling is. I have heard of people who hear their name called and it stopped them from getting injured. You know, like a friend of mine was walking across a military base when she was in the military. She was working third shift. It was raining. She had her rain gear on, so she didn't have much for peripheral vision, and she heard her name called, and she stopped and turned around just as a truck went right by her, and she would have been hit by the truck if someone hadn't called her name, and there was no one there for her to see.
Oh, wow.
So she calls that her guardian angel experience.
Yeah, I
So
mean, like you said, there are a lot
yeah,
of different theories. Like I've heard, a few different stories about names being called and someone narrowly escaping death.
yeah,
Um, or it could literally just be a loved one getting your attention, because they say when you're sleeping, you're more open to activity,
hmm,
or, communication, things like that. So,
yeah.
I mean, it could be someone just saying your name, trying to get your attention. A lot
Saying,
of,
yeah,
you
saying
know,
hello.
yeah, a lot of hauntings are, you know, spirits sort of just trying to reach out and say, "Hey, I'm here," you know. Um, so there's been cases like that, but I think there's probably, you know, an unfathomable amount of theories that,
Right.
could be, to the name sort of call in thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, so if we're going to get interesting questions, it's because Keith likes to challenge people. So you want to take that last one?
I wonder how that works if you're deaf. Um, well, considering I have no concept of how the world is, there's
Yeah,
also people who were born deaf, and then people who become deaf later on in life.
that's true.
So there's sort of two different worlds there, um, which I have no idea about either of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I actually haven't done much research into, the paranormal, and, those who are like either deaf or blind, which I should do more. That's actually a good point.
I know you're actually curious, Keith. Keith is a very curious person. He keeps me on my toes.
I'm
Yeah.
curious now too, actually.
Yeah. All right. We just added to Nate's list of things to research. Excellent.
Definitely. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back and talking about more of whatever interests us. So if anyone has questions, go ahead and put them in the chat.
Certified psychic medium Stephanie Lynn creates an authentic connection between the living and the spirit world. Stephanie knows she is here to help heal, educate, and provide validation that there is more after death, and allows herself to be a conduit and work as a team with spirit to pass on messages from their world to ours. Stephanie Lynn also works as a spiritual life coach to help you achieve, create, and manifest your best self and life. Looking for help communicating with an animal? Searching for a past life regression therapist? Or dealing with a paranormal experience? Stephanie Lynn is here to help. For a list of full services, visit her on Facebook under Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive. That's Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive. Ellie Weisensel's psychic medium is a medical intuitive that specializes as a body code practitioner. As an energy healer, Ellie offers additional services that allow her modalities to be intertwined with energetic healing. Within your subconscious lies information that knows everything about you and why you deal with specific conditions. The subconscious can be considered the blueprint to your entire body. With Ellie working physically with your subconscious mind, we detect what negative emotions are trapped and where they are stored within the body that is causing you your emotional and physical pain. This work is designed to remove imbalances and correct them energetically, getting to the root cause of why you have your condition, to help balance your body so it may heal itself. Your body is infinitely wise and wants to be in balance. The body code is not only gentle for humans, but it is also a gentle process to help animals. For more information, contact Ellie Weisensel at the website below.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is 37 minutes past the hour. You are listening to Be the Change Radio on WLTK-DB, Let's Talk Radio. I'm here with Nate Banker, who is a paranormal researcher and with some special interests in transdimensional beings and also in near-death experiences, researching that extensively and talking to a lot of people about it. And Keith put in the comments, she means if anyone else has questions. No, I mean you too, because you have great questions. I like your questions. Your questions really get us on our toes and thinking and digging deeper. I like that.
For sure. I was actually thinking about the deaf sort of question during the commercial break, and in the paranormal, there's quite a few experiments done with sensory deprivation, like the Estes Method, but nothing where, you can't hear. It's more of like, so like the Estes Method, you take white noise wearing headphones, and then you blind yourself, and then basically somebody will ask questions, and you can't hear the questions, and you just respond to what you hear, through the white noise or spirit box, whatever's connected to the headphones. And then you see if it sort of matches up afterwards. So there's a lot of sensory deprivation done, but nothing that I know has been done with, somebody that's completely deaf, something like that. But normally, different senses are heightened when, you know what I mean? If you are deaf, maybe, I don't know if you can see better, you know what I mean? I wouldn't know, but yeah, like I said, it is definitely something to research.
Yeah, it definitely is. That was a really good question. And I know with like hearing your name just randomly, either, a lot of people when you're going to sleep, waking up, that kind of twilight area is where a lot of people hear it. But I also know that, Tad says the Estes Method, great method. All right.
Yeah, a lot of people have been using it.
Yeah.
I use a method myself, actually. It's called the Gainesfeld experiment, where it's sort of, I don't know if this is where people got the Estes method from, but along with the, spirit box or white noise through the headphones, you put, well, I've seen people like cut a ping pong ball in half, you put it
Hmm.
over your eyes, and then you have like a red light, either like slowly strobing or constant. So you sort of report what you're seeing also. And then there's also work done with like the God helmet, which sort of stimulates your brain with EMF. And I mean, there's, been theories that EMF causes hallucinations. So it's sort of to put you,
Hmm.
I guess, on, put one foot in the door or something. I don't know. I've tried it and it completely wiped me out for a day afterwards. So I haven't done it in a while.
I would actually like to try that. I think I would actually like to try that. That would be interesting. Um, so another question is, how does EVP relate to what you do?
EVP. Well, I feel like, I don't know, EVP is sort of a cornerstone in most paranormal investigation. It's
Yeah.
one of the oldest methods for
Hmm.
collecting evidence. They've been doing it with since like reel to reel. I actually thought of buying a reel to reel player and, going super old school and trying it that way. But yeah, it's one of the oldest methods. It's tried and true. Normally, if you get a voice that's essentially no one else heard and it's on a recording, it's you know pretty solid piece of evidence. Um, I mean, to like my work with ET transdimensional sort of that sort of stuff, it's the same way. I've gotten really weird noises, clicking sounds, almost you ever seen the movie Signs, when they get on
Yeah.
top of the car and they use the baby monitor and they almost have like that clicking noise?
Hmm.
Like I've had sounds similar to that in a house that was completely silent. And that's where I first started to think about the extraterrestrial, aspect to everything. Um, So, yeah, like I said, EVP is kind of the cornerstone of most paranormal investigating.
Yeah, I would agree with that. EVP has been around forever, and I am on with my paranormal team. I'm on the review team. So, like after we've gathered a bunch of stuff and I review, the thing is that I am actually hearing impaired. So I don't do the EVP reviews because it all sounds like static to me, no matter what it is.
Yeah,
So, so that's something that I don't personally do. But I do know that even I've heard EVPs sometimes. They're like, "Whoa, where did that come from?" Or noises coming through a baby monitor, or even voices coming through a baby monitor when
right,
nobody else,
yeah.
when it's the parents in the living room and the baby in its crib, and there's no other people in the house, and you're hearing conversations through a baby monitor. That kind of makes me wonder. It's like, is it picking up radio waves, or is it like actually picking up spirit activity, or like how do you even determine that?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the thing with like digital recorders. It's all microwaves. And,
Hmm.
like maybe it could be, radio signals, but a lot of times, like I've heard very, very clear EVPs. Like on one of my friends, actually, they have a house and um, it's way up near the Canadian border. And it used to be a funeral home, and they were just recording with an iPhone, or either an iPhone or just like an older digital recorder. And they have one of the clearest EVPs I've ever heard, where it's like beyond what people call Class A.
Yeah.
It's like it was like you or I speaking into the recorder, whispering. And it's actually one of the best EVPs I've ever heard. So yeah, I don't know. It's this very important piece of you know techniques to use.
Yeah.
And like you were talking about reviewing, absolutely hate reviewing EVPs. Well,
Yeah.
I did it by myself for so long, and I have, a DVR system, multiple cameras, and then I would place recorders around probably 10 different recorders. So it's like a whole night, 8 hours for each recorder, each camera, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's pretty overwhelming to sit there, and like every piece of dust, every, you know,
Yeah.
bump or knock on the recorder. You have to review it multiple times and put it into programs, try to clean it up, and it can be overwhelming, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I don't mind it too much.
All right. So Keith said he had a reading one that was about some interdimensional beings, and Bing showed up loudly in a recording that was never heard in real time. A Bing showed, like a Bing showed up.
I've heard in EVPs different noises like that, like sort of high pitched noises, like someone's hitting like a bell or metal, something like that.
Yeah.
It's not completely uncommon.
Yeah.
Sort of like phantom noises people will hear. It's the same as the voices, you know what I mean? It could be residual. People hearing footsteps in real time, where they'll also and not hear them in real time and catch it on a recorder, things like that.
Right.
Um, I guess it all depends on which frequency, is sort of what that noise is, what level that's on. I guess it's hard to explain what I mean by
Right.
frequency. So that's sort of a theory in itself, but spirits speaking on different frequencies, and some recorders pick up stuff on, between, 70 hertz and, 800 hertz, where, other recorders work differently. So it all sort of depends.
Yeah. Yeah. Robin said that she had heard once on Nikki's baby monitor, but it turned out to be the neighbor down the street. And that can happen too. You
Yeah.
live around other people. Maybe it's picking up a conversation outside.
I mean, I think that's probably the downfall of baby monitors, or
Yeah.
trying to use baby. I've seen people use them in different experiments, but I feel like baby monitors pick up quite a bit. It'd be like using like a ham radio, you know what I mean? To
Yeah.
try as a spirit box, you're gonna definitely pick up a lot.
So that actually brings up some questions that I have about the equipment that you use. Now, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like a teddy bear that you can set in a room that records EVPs.
Oh, there's like that I had, or
Oh,
that.
no. So I read it in a book, actually,
Oh,
that a
well,
group had that.
well, I memean, you could. I've put a whole bunch of different stuff inside stuffed animals.
Okay.
Like in my building for a while, I went through a phase where everything I built, I aimed it at like children's spirits. So everything I built, like that teams would use, I sort of built into kids' toys. Like if people would normally build like a geoport, which is a radio, and it has reverb and like an EMF pickup, stuff like that, and the voices come out. It kind of sounds like they're in a well, but in some ways it makes it easier to understand. And I would put that into like a children's radio, to sort
Okay.
of attract children's spirits, because I sort of always thought that children's spirits were more inclined to interact, maybe because they weren't afraid, you know what I mean?
Right.
Um, but I don't know. So the thing that normally the teddy bear thing is called a boo bear, and
That's what it was. I couldn't remember what it. I mean, it's such a simple name, but I
yeah,
couldn't remember what it was
sorry,
called.
I went off on a tangent, but
Yeah.
the boo bear, it picks up EMF. Do you know what a REM pod is? Basically,
Yes.
it's a pod and it creates a field, and when something breaks that field, that EMF field, it'll go off, and depending how close an object is and how much they've broken the field, it'll be louder and more LEDs will go off.
Hmm.
Basically, a boo bear is just has that technology inside of it.
Okay.
So the closer an entity gets to the bear, some of them speak, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them, all of them have like LEDs inside. So the more LEDs that are going off, it's supposed to indicate that a spirit is closer to the bear. There's quite a few of them out there. I never had one myself. I've built different, toys and stuffed animals with different things inside them, but I've never actually gotten one from a company. So I'm not
Okay.
exactly sure what, the extent of what they can do.
Well, and I suppose it would be different with all of them. I mean, when I go online even and just look at paranormal research equipment, like there's an amazing array, not only of machinery or recording devices or cameras or whatever, the ones that cast the light net, like
Oh, like a
like
laser grid? Yeah,
yeah, like a laser grid. And that you can go from very, very inexpensive to tens of thousands of dollars for a piece of
absolutely. Yeah.
equipment, and so I think it's such a wide variety of different types of equipment that it's really like you can't really say this, all REM pods are equal or all EVPs are, EMFs are equal or all VEVPs are equal because they're not. I mean, they're just some are more sensitive, some are built better. So I have heard though that a lot of the paranormal researchers who do it a lot tend to make their own equipment.
Yeah. There was like, I hit a certain point where I just realized that equipment was so expensive for what it was. Like, there's certain, devices that companies would charge $1,000 for, and I could build it for under $100 if you just
Right.
go out and buy the parts and circuitry, like very basic circuitry. And so I just started building my own and building for my friends, different stuff like that. And then I got into creating my own ideas. So I feel like with sort of paranormal equipment, we hit a wall, a few years back where the science has always been the same, even if, the device has, it can do more now. Like there's laser grids that, if an entity comes into the laser grid, it'll show you on a little screen where the entity is within the laser grid and
Hmm.
stuff like that. But it's all essentially the same technology, whether they just combine it or not. Um, so I think there needs to be like a push for, what I mean, uh, just another step into technology. Um, like I've been working with like multispectral cameras and stuff like that. Just I don't
Okay.
know, like it's weird when you don't actually know what technology is out there. You know what I mean? I'm sure
Mhm.
the government has technology that'd be really useful in this field, but
Right.
we don't exactly know what exists or not.
And they're
And
not willing to share.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Greedy.
Yeah. Keith says, what was your most surprising occurrence that spirit started?
Hmm. What it what does he mean by
I'm
that?
not sure what he means by that. What do you mean by that, Keith? So yeah, I don't. Anyway, I don't know, like what lit up the most, or like what surprised you as far as like how the equipment reacted to the energies around it, or what surprised you in that arena. I'm
um
guessing.
oh, something that came out of the blue.
Blue.
Actually, um I was down at this little bed and breakfast on the Pennsylvania New York border called the Fainting Goat Island Inn. And I they told us that there was a little kid spirit on like the second floor. So I set up a bunch of, toys and stuff. And I was downstairs filming, and it was the first time I ever heard a DVP, which is a direct voice phenomenon. and I heard a little kid laugh like upstairs, like out loud, and the person I was with didn't hear it. So it was kind of interesting. And
Okay.
it wasn't caught on any recorders. There was recorders all over the room, upstairs where it came from. And it was one of those situations that sort of change you as a person, because I've seen a lot of crazy things, but for some reason, this little kid laughing where I could only hear it almost like it was just for me was kind of special to me.
Yeah, that is. I like that. I've heard things like that too, that other people didn't hear. Sometimes it doesn't show up. And I've also had, I don't know, call this possession or whatever, but when I was working with another research group where I was the psychic that was doing the readings. And of course, we had 3 people on a team. Every team had at least 3 people. And I would go back and look at the recordings, and somebody else was talking through me, and I don't remember saying it. I don't remember feeling any different. I don't remember anything about it. It just kind of came up on a recording. And that's happened to me a couple of times when someone just uses me kind of as their voice piece, but they don't stick with me or anything. So I don't feel like I ever took anything home, anything like that. But yeah, it was interesting.
Would that be considered channeling, or?
Yeah, I think I would call that channeling, and I do channeling, but at that point I hadn't started doing channeling. So I didn't even realize it until I went back and watched the video.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'd say it must have been a bit scary, sort of going back, when you hadn't started it yet, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Going back and going, oh, I guess I've been channeling longer than I thought I had.
Did you experience missing time in a way after it happened?
I guess so. I wasn't watching the time, so I don't know for sure. I mean, I remember the rest of the investigations.
Or was it just time went by and then you sort of didn't even realize there was that lapse, and
right,
almost continuing a conversation, right afterwards. That's interesting.
So Frankie's on.
Hey, Frankie.
Hi, Frankie. Let's see. How do you think Tesla's theories can be applied to modern paranormal research?
He wants me to talk about quantum physics.
Yeah, he does, but we have a minute. So how fast can you talk about quantum physics?
I can't.
For another time.
Unified field theory, etc.
In layman's terms, right?
Yeah.
Nate, it has been a lot of fun having you on the show. I think we're going to do this again. Quantum seconds.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. We'll bring Frankie on so he can try to explain it.
I tried to do that once and your equipment wasn't working. So we'll do that again. We'll do that again. We have both of you on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks again, Nate. You've been a great guest, and I really appreciate all of the wealth of information that you've shared. And I'm really interested in that interdimensional thing. I'm going to start reading more about that, because that just really interested me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Very interesting speaker. Thanks, Nate.
Yeah.
That was from Robin. So thank you again. I actually have another show starting in less than 2 minutes that I need to get to. So we're going over to the paranormal room, and we're going to be talking about haunted penitentiaries and jails.
Okay. So, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Nate. Take care, and I'll see you in February.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.